some sense, I represent HPE Aruba. Aruba is part of Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and we hold a charter for what we call the intelligent edge, right? And a lot of our business is based on what you call free spectrum, or unlicensed spectrum. We don't pay for the spectrum that our customers deploy. But I want to go back to one of the questions that was raised: how do you define content, right? And to us, we look at a definition of content that goes beyond the digital realm that a lot of the participants here have defined. The intelligent edge, we've chosen to define it as where people are, right? And people come with expectations in the personas that we adopt and the locations that we find ourselves in. I start my day off, I could first be a commuter getting to my office, be an employee in the office, go to a mall, be a shopper, go to a stadium, be a fan, or be an attendee in a conference like this one. Each of those situations comes with a certain expectations. And how do we deliver on those expectations? And many of those expectations combine experience of the context in the digital realm and bring it over into the physical world that we all live in. And a classic example of that is rideshare services like Ola or Uber, which basically take an understanding of what they know about me in the digital realm and the way I engage with them to provide a service essentially in the physical world in there. Right? And to us, the world used to be, I remember growing up, we didn't even have a phone in our home. Right? A lot of the communications were all physical basically. So where now we've over-rotated, I go back to the 17 hours a day, and I see that in my children as well, where it's largely in the digital realm. And now we are slowly getting back into where in the middle, we're combining the two. And to us, as we look at delivering on those expectations from whether it's end users or whether it's from businesses and industries, or even the public sector with citizen services, a lot of it has to look at combining multiple technologies, right? And as I hear 5G, sometimes the assumption is that there's just one homogeneous network in there. That isn't true. It's going to be a collection of technologies that we have to put together. But how do you make it seamless to consumers of this connectivity layer, right? Because you create a connectivity layer that is seamless, that is always available, that allows each of us to do what we want to do wherever and whenever. It drives participation, and that participation itself gives us insights into what each of our stakeholders expect us to deliver. I just look at, the more we can make this seamless, the higher the participation is, the higher the delivery of content to our end users is. Yesterday something hit my inbox in there, right? I'll use an example from the United States. We recently helped one of our customers, Ohio State University, deploy a high-density Wi-Fi network in their stadium. Right? The stadium holds 100,000 people, and in the game last weekend, they broke some records on the amount of data that we've transferred over a Wi-Fi network in a 3-hour period, which is a football game event, which was something of the order of 27 terabytes or so, right? But the thing that, while that is impressive, what was impressing to me is we've done many stadium networks in the past. And a lot of times the participation rate has been around 40%, which is the number of fans that are in the stadium, 40% of them have their devices connected to the network. In the event last weekend, that participation rate crossed 70%. Right? A lot of that had to do with we worked with our service provider partners, like Verizon, like AT&T, to make that connectivity layer seamless. Right? The user didn't have to think about it, their devices were automatically connected to the network. Right? So that's an example of how we bring multiple technologies that have been distinct, that have been different administrative domains. How do we combine that to create that seamless experience so that we can deliver on what we believe the content, which is basically combining the digital and the physical worlds. This is where we started with content, which is in the digital realm. More and more, I think we will find that middle ground between the digital and the physical worlds. But it essentially puts a lot of us in a position where, as end users participate in our network, in our connectivity fabrics, we know who they are, we know where they are, we know what they're up to, and sometimes we know what their expectations are. That actually places a lot of responsibility on our shoulders in making sure that we protect that data, We make sure that we create the right tools and technologies that allow us to win over the trust of our end users. That we are, while we have access to a lot of their data, which is personally identifiable, that we are guarding it well, and we are only using it to kind of turn around and deliver some of their expectations in there. But this also, we are in a phase where the pace at which technology is evolving, right, from generation to generation, has actually quickened, right, and it actually puts a lot of the regulators in a tough position because they just necessarily don't have the time to absorb it and create the right policies for the next generation of technologies. And how do we now help that, right? And so if I look at something like GDPR in Europe, it actually is a good start because it doesn't say that you cannot use my data. It just says that I need to know how my data is being used, and if I don't like it, I have the choice as an end user to turn off particular uses of data in there, right? And as we develop those regulatory mechanisms in there, it may not be the perfect model, but at least it's a good start in the way I see it, versus not having anything at all. And this is only going to get worse as we go forward, right? Because as technologists, we're all working forward, we're all enabled to go create and increase the pace of technology in there. But we have to be mindful of, humans also have a tendency to not be able to keep pace with a lot of these things in there. And that is where simplicity is important, security and trust is important, how we guard it. But at the same time, you don't want to stop the pace of innovation. And so how do we now strike the right balance? That's a burden that we all share. We have to take that responsibility seriously and make sure that we do the right thing.
Shared responsibility. Our time's almost up. So very quickly.